Greetings, unsettled souls, and welcome to The Correct Views. Sam Di Gangi doing political commentary for The Media Speaks, and we have a very, very full show. And go is what we are going to do. Get into it. I want to remind everyone, like I did on Facebook just a moment ago, that this is listener-supported. You guys sharing it, particularly on platforms that aren't just Facebook. I am thankful for the Facebook shares. But you who are sharing this on multi-platforms are the ones who are helping us the most. Hello, Liz. Hello, Cindy. All right, guys, we're going to get into it. Did Q break this? I don't know. I think it's interesting. Breaking. Fed prosecutors assigned to John Huber questioned whistleblower inside the Clinton Foundation on Friday. Now, this was sent to me by my good friend Roger. Let me say here openly that here's my thoughts on Q. And I felt the same way when we were talking about Corey Feldman and the whole molestation issue. He kept saying, I'm going to let you know who did this. I'm going to tell you who did this. If you know who did this, why don't you tell us already? And, by the time he finally dropped names, nobody was paying any attention any longer. So that's what frustrates me about Q. For those of you that don't know, Q is someone who has information. We don't know who, of course. Someone tied to the Trump administration who has information showing how the deep state and the media is working against him. I support that. I don't have a problem with that. What I have a problem with is the lollygagging about when you're going to drop this. I think that we could have kept the House if Q had gone ahead and given us all the information that it seems like is still trickling in sooner. But by the same token, it's been said that we don't need the House, that what we really needed here was the Senate. And since we were going to keep the Senate, he's holding the information. I don't like it. I don't like the way he or they or whatever Q is dispensing this knowledge. However, I am extremely grateful by the fact that it is happening. So we're going to go to screen share for those of you on YouTube. You guys are particularly important on the sharing, by the way. YouTubers more than anyone, because it's YouTube that's trying to silence us the most. The Hill reporter John Solomon told Sean Hannity on Friday that a big report is breaking Monday on the investigation into the Clinton crimes. Federal prosecutors reached out to a Clinton Foundation whistleblower on Friday, and this happened tonight. Solomon said, I'll give you some breaking news right now, Sean. Just 2 hours ago, federal prosecutors assigned to John Hunter, the U.S. attorney investigating the Clintons, reached out to a whistleblower in the Clinton Foundation. The first time we've seen contact between the Clinton Foundation whistleblower and that particular federal office. That just happened tonight. Now, while that is significant news, the other part of this is that the Clinton Foundation has been crashing for quite some time. It was just, I do believe, the Drudge Report, who had published only yesterday, or the day before, that the Clinton Foundation has taken a massive, massive dip in the money they've had donated to them, the money they've been able to raise. It's been crashing, and the reason is that the Clinton Foundation is a very pay-to-play organization. Those people who were giving money to the Clintons were doing so simply to have access to who they thought was going to be the president, or when she was the senator or the first lady, et cetera, et cetera. Now that isn't the case, there's crickets. Nothing. That's what you hear, nothing. Because the pay-to-play aspect of it is no longer there. So my thoughts on Q are this. I'm happy that there's somebody working to spread the truth, because I personally am somebody that spreads the truth. I am somebody who makes sure that the facts get out and makes sure that there's analysis given. And it's very hard for any of us to get heard because the opposition, the dishonest forces, if you will, the mainstream media, Facebook, Google, they are hard left and extremely dishonest. So I'm very grateful for someone like Q and the fact that such a person exists or a group of people exists, but I'm not that thrilled with the way it is that they do things. And that's my major problem with that. I mean, plain and simple. Thanks to the Gateway Pundit, though, those of you who know more on Q, by all means, I don't want to speak badly about what's happening because it's a blessing, and they've brought a lot of things to light. I'm just not a real big fan of this trickle-down truth. Just, if you have the truth, put it out there before somebody puts a pillow over your head, or before another Democrat wins an election with dishonest strategies. Guys, moving on. I want to talk once again about this migrant caravan because it keeps coming up. I keep getting multiple memes about it, and a lot of the correspondence that I'm getting has to do with it. And because we're into December, and because people know I'm a Christian, people love to question me on this ridiculous notion that Jesus Christ was heading to Nazareth because of his government. Because he was a refugee. His government sent him. And then he was fleeing them and went to Egypt. The government was after Jesus. People will talk about the Jews fleeing the Nazis. Then the Gypsies and other people fleeing the Nazis. The Nazis were a government who was harassing the people. This caravan of people who want to mosey into the country are doing so because of gang violence. Now, let me break this down for you in a way that finally makes sense, and we can end this debate once and for all. It can be proven that the people living in gang violence in Chicago, parts of Detroit, and parts of Cleveland have it far worse than the people in this caravan. So, my question to you is, does everyone in Chicago who happens to have a bad life have the right to go walking into Canada, claiming amnesty or claiming asylum? No, they don't. If this caravan had risen up in those numbers against the drug lords, they probably would have ran the drug lords out. Second of all, the idea of throwing rocks at security forces, the border guards. You cannot expect to throw rocks at ICE or whatever border agents are there and expect not to have tear gas shot at you back. Now, I've been to a lot of protests. There's police there, tear gas on the ready. Now, I've never been tear gassed, but I've never thrown a rock at somebody's head either. So there is that. They had the kids would not have been. People say they tear gas children. The children, I don't blame the government. I don't blame Trump. I blame the parents because the parents were told, do not try to come to the border. You are not getting in. If you get violent, we will meet force with force. Therefore, I blame the parents for where they are. Not the government. They were told not to come. If you take and put your child in a ridiculous situation, then you can't get mad at you can't blame the person who simply defended themselves. So that's most of my thoughts on that. I've already spoken about it in the past, so I don't want to spend copious amounts of time on it, but there is a difference. And I think that that's an important difference to make when this topic comes up, because I don't think a lot of people have reasoned it through all the way. As for vetting people at the border, dishonest people are dishonest people. So unfortunately, what we're seeing is there are a lot of bad apples moving into the caravan. Specifically because they're part of look at it this way, the very people in El Salvador in these rather morbid places that people are living, the reason that they're trying to get out is because drug lords, killers, child molesters, child smugglers, etc., are making life miserable in South America. Now stay with me. If you have a group of people, thousands, hundreds, whatever, walking. You mean to tell me that these drug lords and these child smugglers who are trying to get into the country anyway in order to bring chaos, hey Joe, trying to bring chaos into the country, you mean to tell me that they're not going to infiltrate this caravan? That they're just going to let it peacefully go by? That is a ridiculous notion. And then when you say that, people will oftentimes say, well, you're being prejudiced or racist or bigoted against those people because you don't want to let them in. That isn't true at all. With a last name like Di Gangi, that's kind of complicated. So obviously, no. Okay, there's Italian and Mexican heritage all over my dad's side of the family. That doesn't mean that I don't think that the gangs who are causing the trouble are going to miss the opportunity to jump into this mess. I just don't see that being the case. I really don't. We saw it in the EU. A lot of ISIS, a lot of the people who were creating the problem within the European Union were infiltrating the caravan that they started. What do I mean? The same thing I meant in reference to South America. Stay with me. ISIS was creating problems, and other groups like them were creating problems in Syria. The people that created the problem, the very people that created that mess, infiltrated the conga line of people seeking asylum within the European Union. So now what you've got are radical no-go zones in places all over Europe and Britain because they went ahead and didn't vet the people properly and just opened the door to those in need, which sounds like a good thing to do until you realize that the people are not all in need. A lot of the bad actors are mingling into this group. There are places in England that you cannot go to if you are not Muslim, and a certain sect of Muslim as well. Sweden has become the rape capital of the world. They've even beat some of the hellholes that have always existed in Africa and in some areas of South America. Why? Because the very people that the refugees were fleeing in Syria, the very people who were fleeing violence were infiltrated by the people who caused the violence. So if there's 100 people walking to the border of a European nation country, there were 20, 30 ISIS members mingled in as well, claiming to be refugees and then creating hell in the European Union once they got there. So let's all of us do a big favor to common sense and stop saying that this migrant caravan that's coming from the South needs to be allowed into the United States in the name of goodness and decency, because a lot of the people coming into the country in this caravan are the very people who the people in the caravan are running from. If you don't keep that very important forethought in the front of your mind, if you don't keep that thought in the front of your head, using the thinking part of your brain, then you won't understand what's being talked about. It looks like people that don't want to open the doors are suddenly these cold-hearted people that would have supported the Nazis. And I'd just like to say openly that, my friends, is not the case. And we got one story to get to, of course. It's the dumbdee of the day. I just want to remind everybody before we go that I don't make a penny, not one red penny on this show, particularly the way they've attacked and deplatformed outlets like mine. So I rely on you. And you can donate at the correct views at hotmail.com, at hotmail.com through PayPal. And every penny that you give towards me, my friends, I put towards bringing a better show, a more frequent show. And again, mailing out the dunce cap of the month alone can be $20, $30 a month. So I appreciate all of you guys who are helping the show and supporting it. God bless you guys. One story to get to. What if I was to tell you that in our sex-obsessed culture, where sex is sort of what drives everyone to everything. What if I was to tell you, just a few years ago, that a supermodel, one of the prettiest women in America, would become the first lady, and all the glamour magazines wouldn't take the opportunity to put her on the cover? You would have laughed me to scorn. However, that is exactly what has happened. We have one of the most beautiful women who probably existed in the last 30, 40 years of modeling. One of the top 20 easily as first lady. Nice to virtually everyone she meets. She has to be one of the most soft-spoken, humble people that have ever been in the White House. Instead of going after people's rights, like trying to increase the money coming into the prison industrial complex by going after the war on drugs, she's going after bullying. She's actually has a cause that might one day help someone. There is a lot of good in there. She is a devout Catholic, and again, while I'm not, I don't believe in purgatory nor the sinlessness of Mary. The point is we have a very good person as the First Lady, and the media is like turning a blind eye here for absolutely no reason at all, other than to continue the juggernaut against conservative thought, to continue the hatred that is spewed towards Donald Trump. Listen to this. This is from the Washington Times. The media getting the dumbdee of the day here. Few first ladies have been more prepared for their close-ups than Melania Trump. Yet the former model has not graced the cover of Vogue, Glamour, nor Cosmopolitan during her husband's first 20 months in office. Neither has she yucked it up with Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Kimmel, or other late-night TV hosts. That's a huge missed opportunity for the Trump White House, says Lauren A. Wright, lecturer in politics and public affairs at the Princeton University. Yeah, because Melania Trump is unbelievably popular with women. Women instinctively note that she's a keeper. She's a good egg, as it were. She's very steadfast. She's very honest. And the popularity numbers, again, with women is something that helps Trump. And the media will do everything in their power to make sure that that can't be the case. The bias is openly on display here. I'm showing it to you. Mrs. Trump has this toolkit that makes her unique, powerful, surrogate. It's so rare for a White House not to take advantage of that, Mrs. Wright said. The modern First Lady routinely graces the media landscape in creative ways. Michelle Obama, for example, appeared on the popular Carpool Karaoke segment of the late-night TV show. Again, a lot of this is the disrespect and shade that's given to her for absolutely no reason whatsoever. She's probably one of the most forthright first ladies that the country's ever had. So, think about it. Just let these facts sink in. You can prove the bias in this country. It's not hard to do. You simply have to pay attention to what is around you. What are you seeing? What is being sold to you and why? And then if you look up the truthfulness behind it, you can find that there isn't any. And for instance, Snopes. Snopes are run by two liberals and their cat. Who has put them as the gatekeeper of truth? What they consider to be truth is what people call truth, and they're so heavily flawed and so heavily wrong that I don't know how anybody could trust them, but they're being sold to the people because they subscribe to the mindset that is being used to infiltrate and brainwash everyone else, to align them to the thinking of the UN or the New Order, if you will, or the global warming nutcases, who, even though you can prove it's not happening, refuse to believe it. It's that simple, friends. I hope it's been a good show for you. I hope you hit share. Good night. God bless. Make sure you hit subscribe. And again, please donate at thecorrectviews@hotmail.com. Do that through PayPal, friends. Good night. God bless. And Facebook. See ya. YouTubers. God bless.